And welcome to another episode of the Always Late to Everything podcast, starring your host, DJ McGame17. And of course, I have my co host today, the social stud.
Oh God. When I was typing that out, I was thinking about I know you've been kind of out of wrestling for quite some time. I know you haven't watched much of it.
Yeah.
But there's this one guy, he had the funniest bit that he did. He's this Scottish dude, and he came in and he had like this romance angle with Alicia Fox. I don't know if you know her, but his Scottish accent, whenever he said it, it was Alicia Fox. And they just had him keep saying it. And every single time he leaned into it a little harder, and he's like, Alicia Fox. And they can get away with it on TV because, like, that's just his accent. And Vince McMahon's just like laughing so hard at that because they have him say it every week. It's a great way to get away with it. And I was just thinking about that when I was saying the social stud thing in my head. I think that's an amazing thing. I think you have to hear it to appreciate it. So if anybody's watching this in the future, it's Noam Dar, Noamdar. You could type in Alicia Fox. Probably any video that comes up is sufficient.
That's great opener, by the way. So how you
gotta open with something. It's the things that catch attention.
How are you doing this week, Brady?
I'm doing okay. The output on my channel has been heavy. It's a little bit draining. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing. I mentioned to you in the past that I was getting a new computer and it was going to be like a powerhouse. And it's come in and I don't know how to challenge this computer. Like when you use things like OBS or something in the corner, it has like the percentage of like CPU you use for something. And on my old computer, it would like be average like 60% out of 100. And then once I start recording for a little while, it starts to like max out and the fans kick on and it's like super loud. This computer, when I do like a similar task, it's like 0.8% CPU usage. It's like I'm only using 1% of my power for like a similar task, and it's kind of amazing. So I'm still figuring out what can I do with that much power. Did I go overboard? Probably. I don't think I had to spend that much money, but it's like the perfect machine. And now I'm like putting out videos like crazy, and it's a little too much. I think I've overexerted myself a little, but when you have all this power, you just want to use it.
Yeah. Here's that freezer.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. This is only 1% of my power level. Imagine what I could do if I used 100%. I could like attach like I have one webcam. I could do like 14 webcams if I had them. I could plug them all in at once, and this computer could probably handle it. There's no purpose for that, but I want to try it just to do it.
Yeah, like this is not my production's final form.
Yeah, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's been fun, and it's made gaming stuff easier because I can just plug my PlayStation like straight into the computer through like my capture card thing. And it has like no latency, no like lag in between like when my controller does something and when it happens on screen. Because normally if you plug it straight into the computer, it'll have like this huge delay. That's why people will do it on like a separate monitor. But this thing is so perfect that it doesn't have that problem, which is awesome.
So what kind of computer did you get exactly?
It's an iMac. It's like the 2020 version. And you can customize it when you do it on the website. And like I maxed out on like its processor and stuff. And then I bought like RAM separately, because if you buy RAM from them, like the amount of RAM that I got from them costs like $2,500. So I bought it separately for like $500. And I was just thinking, like, I'm going down that much. I'm just going to max out. I'm going to get all the RAM that I can fit in this computer. So I got 128 gigabytes. And apparently that's more than I thought it was. And I will probably never need that much. And that's why my computer is way too powerful. I'm not going to say too powerful, but I may have wasted a little bit of money. I probably could have done with less.
How much money did you spend on it though?
The computer itself was like $3,500. I was going to spend $5,000 on an iMac Pro, but it turned out I could save money and get like a comparable, probably a more powerful machine just by buying the RAM separately. So total, it was like $4,000, which is still a lot. But this computer is going to get me through a long time.
That's good to hear. I mean, I would hope so. That's a lot of money. So
it is. I've never made such a big purchase in my life, and there are people who don't really like Apple products or whatever. And yeah, I could have saved money probably building a computer or something, building a PC or something like that. But I'm so used to using Apple applications, like I edit with Final Cut Pro and stuff. I play around with the Apple musical softwares and stuff, and I have all these apps that I've already spent money on, and I just kind of I have trouble changing from that. I'd have to learn how to edit on a new program, and I don't know if I have the will to do that.
Yeah, I mean, like, you just gotta practice. I guess put the time into it, but I'm pretty sure you'll figure it out.
Yeah. Right. Hopefully. Well, I don't have to. I have this computer now, and I'm stuck with it for a very long time because there's no way I'm getting a new one for a long time. But it's easier to make that investment when I do YouTube for work, pretty much. Like, now that I do it for work, it's like, okay, this is like an artisan buys his own tools or something. You gotta invest in yourself. And if I do want to take YouTube like halfway serious, it makes sense. And it drives me much less crazy. Like when I'm finalizing a video, you know how like you gotta mix it all down into one file before you put it onto YouTube. Sometimes when you're doing that stuff, it can take hours depending on the size of the file. This takes like 4 minutes for like a comparable file. For like a 40-minute thing, it took me like 5 minutes for it to render down into one thing. So it saves me so much time. I can finish my video and I can get back and do my school stuff, because my schoolwork tends to suffer when I'm putting more into the YouTube stuff. So now I can like balance them much better. So that's a sacrifice that I was totally willing to make, because now I'm going to be able to keep up with my school stuff and not get like, because you know what it's like to get into like that end of semester crunch where you've not finished whatever your final project is or whatever, and you really just got to force it in at the last second. If I end up in that situation again, it's all my fault. It's not because of my work or whatever holding me back. It's because I was lazy, because I have all the tools in the world now to do it smoothly.
Yeah. Yeah, also you just gotta pace yourself and I guess schedule things. Or like kind of, I guess, balance out your schedule. Like, okay, I'm gonna do this today, I'm gonna do this tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's easier said than done, but
oh yeah. You and I both know that. At this stage, with YouTube, it felt more urgent at times, because often, like, I don't want to like miss an upload and get like written out of like YouTube's mysterious evil algorithm or something. I'm always so afraid that like the littlest things will hurt the progress of my channel, because I've had plenty of, like, I went from a point where I was getting like 600 subs a day to like now I'm at like 20 something, which I'm still very happy with, but I'd like to keep the growth of the channel going because there's so much potential in that. Even if it's not a job I have for a long time, I would like to be able to make something out of the audience I've built. I just don't know what that is yet.
Yeah. No, it's easy to get removed from YouTube because unfortunately their algorithms are pretty evil and sinister. So you unfortunately do kind of have to keep like constantly posting stuff.
Yeah. And then there's the thing, like, I have things that I want to record that are a lot of the things that I want to do the most are not as popular. And you got to kind of compromise with that. Every once in a while, it's like, okay, yeah, I want to record this today, but also this is my job and I kind of have to do some of the stuff that people want. It's not like I don't enjoy doing those videos, but sometimes there's other things I would prefer to be doing.
Such as?
Like, my gaming stuff doesn't do very well compared to my React stuff. And like, I don't know if anybody gets onto YouTube like, I want to be a professional reactor. I think people tend to like fall into like the React stuff. Like, I don't know what to do. I guess I'll do a React video or something. And they're really good for building an initial audience because you get a lot of clicks from the stuff you are reacting to, which is really cool. But I would like to spend a little bit more time on like more ambitious projects. I've always wanted to make like a documentary or something, but who knows how well that would work out. And I'd have to put who knows how many hours into that sort of thing for it to potentially not work out, when I know that I could just put out a React video tomorrow, the next day, the day after that, and it will probably do fine.
So, what kind of documentary would you want to make, though?
I have lots of ideas. I've always wanted to do like a documentary on professional wrestling. It's not like I also have like all the history stuff with my studies or whatever. But as far as something like getting in the field, following people, filming like some action, I always thought it would be cool to film like the behind the scenes of a wrestling company, like a small wrestling company. Because I've been in a wrestling locker room when I was filming for the Extreme Wrestling Alliance about a year and a half ago, I think, at this point. I was filming their shows and I got to see what it's like in a locker room. And it's really interesting seeing how a show gets built. And I don't think most wrestling documentaries like to focus on that stuff nearly as much. They like to follow the adventure, the progress of individuals. But what I think it would be cool is to really show how a wrestling show is built. It may not be the most popular thing, but I think it would be really cool for the wrestling nerds to see something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that would be interesting. Like, I think I may have watched like one wrestling documentary. I don't really remember. Well, no, I'd rather saw my father watching one. I think on the Undertaker.
Yeah, and a lot of those things, it's cool. They follow people and they follow their characters a lot, but I feel like very few of those documentaries really get into the nitty-gritty of what it's like to be a wrestler. I feel like you don't get to see that people at their most natural. Wrestling is such a guarded business that you don't really get to see what it's really like, even in documentaries. Like the stuff produced by WWE, that's total BS. Like most of what they do is like kayfabed to hell. They are so afraid of letting people see what it's like actually behind the scenes.
Yeah, because they gotta keep that that sense of wonder. I guess I don't know, mystery.
Yeah. Oh, I get that, but also I think That's why it would be so cool to do it on like an entry level, like to go to a more local wrestling company and really learn that stuff, because that's what the people who are like, I want to be a wrestler when I grow up. Okay, well, this is what you're gonna have to go to before you get to that. And I feel like a lot of people think you like go to wrestling school, then boom, you're in like NXT or something, and boom, there you're on the main roster or something. But it's a really interesting experience when you look at some of these smaller venues and how people get noticed. Like I've gotten to see some of the people that I had the privilege of filming move on to be in NXT. Some of them are on like AEW now, which is really cool seeing these people who I got to walk by in the locker room, and now they're on TV.
Yeah. Speaking of that, so I was watching some YouTube videos, and maybe you've seen this or heard about this because I've just been like really out the loop when it comes to the professional wrestling stuff. So I don't know. I guess some time ago, TNA and WWE was going at it. Like at one point, I think TNA had like they did like a Monday night event, or they were trying to compete with them directly. Have you heard about that?
At the time, TNA was actually like a viable alternative to WWE. These days, people like laugh at TNA because they made a whole bunch of big business mistakes. They brought in like Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan to run things, and they screwed everything up because they were the cool wrestling company for a while, and then they decide, okay, we've got a buzz. We're going to move to Monday night because they wanted to recreate the WWE WCW war thing because they thought that would drive up ratings. What it did was like totally kill their credibility because they got smashed in the ratings, and then they very quickly had to go back to their old day. Yeah. It was not a good idea. TNA, the reason WCW could compete is because they had like Ted Turner money behind them. That's like much more than what TNA had. TNA had a very genuine like underground wrestling. I'm not even gonna say it's underground. It was becoming like very popular with like hardcore wrestling fans. Like that was where the company you go to when you want to see like the wrestling. And WWE was like the sports entertainment company. I mean, I guess they were both that, but like that's just where the cool kids were at.
Yeah, but another way you can look at it too is that the WWE, not the WWE, TNA at one point just, I noticed that they were kind of just getting a lot of WWE's leftovers in terms of wrestlers. Yeah. Like the wrestlers that left there, they just kind of went there. So you know, you can kind of look at it. You can look at that how you will. It could be looked at as both a positive or a negative thing. Like it's depending on how you want to spin that.
Yeah, they had some really good homegrown guys, but like the main event scene often, like when it was at its worst, had some WWE guys like dominating it. Sometimes it was good, like Kurt Angle when he jumped to TNA. That was some of the best work of Kurt Angle's career. He had some awesome matches with Samoa Joe and stuff, and it was really cool. But yeah, when they have like I love guys like RVD and like Mr. Kennedy and stuff like that, and like Jeff Hardy, but sometimes they had them when they weren't really at their best. Like Jeff Hardy especially, like he would go to TNA because they let him do drugs or whatever. It was a bad time in Jeff Hardy's life, and they had some of the more embarrassing moments in professional wrestling. I don't know if you've seen the video. You probably haven't if you're not super familiar with TNA, but there was this one match where Jeff Hardy was supposed to face Sting, and he came to the ring like seriously intoxicated. I don't know what he had in his system, but he was like messed up, man. And Sting basically just drops him with his finisher right at the beginning of the match, and it ends. and that was the main event of a pay-per-view. And moments like that like killed TNA's credibility.
I did not hear about that.
Yeah, somebody let Jeff Hardy go through the curtain, clearly messed up. And that was really irresponsible. He could have got seriously hurt. You shouldn't be wrestling intoxicated, despite what Steve Austin did in the 90s. You should not be drunk or on other substances in the ring. It's too dangerous.
So they were trying to recreate the Attitude Era and failed miserably, basically.
Yeah, kind of. They that's where a lot of the edgy stuff was. I mean, at the time, WWE could still do some of its edgy stuff, but it was phasing out a lot of it. So you would go to TNA and you could find a lot more challenging stuff, which they had some really good stuff. They created some really good stars. It just sometimes took a while for them to be at the top, and sometimes they took the backseat to the WWE guys. Like they had Samoa Joe, they had AJ Styles, who's like on top of his game right now. He's been on top of his game in WWE for a while now, and you wouldn't have him in WWE if he didn't have his time in TNA. And they really did make AJ Styles a star.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know, like, like TNA wasn't terrible. Like, I probably did get better wrestling with them, but ultimately, just, I don't know, like.
I think they had the X division, and that's where the coolest wrestling was. That was like their secondary title. It was kind of like the cruiserweights, kind of like their light heavyweight division or something. It wasn't formally that because like Samoa Joe won the title and stuff like that, and he's definitely a heavyweight. But they had all the crazy people doing all the flippy stuff. It was kind of like the cruiserweight division in WCW in the 90s. That's like what the real wrestling fans were watching. Like they had the people like Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper in the main event when those guys were over the hill. And then in the lower card, you had people like Eddie Guerrero and stuff, like totally killing it. And that's kind of what TNA had. Like it was weirdly enough bottom heavy rather than top heavy. The top was like a lot of the WWE guys, but then you had this undercard that was amazing.
I mean, I guess. But overall, like with the WWE guys that were on there, do you think they overall performed well? Do you think they performed even better than they did on the WWE?
Well, Jeff Hardy didn't. Kurt Angle did. We had guys like Ric Flair. Like after he was forced to retire in WWE, he got like a couple more matches in TNA, and that was a mistake. But I think he had money issues. Booker T was okay. Like a lot of them were just okay. Some of them had no business being in matches. Like Hulk Hogan wrestled again. He should not have been wrestling at that point. It's weird. But then you have guys like Sting, who's like the ace of WCW, and he had some pretty good moments in TNA, even though he was like an older dude. He didn't go to WWE until after, though, so he's not the best example.
Yeah. I was actually surprised to find out that they had Hulk Hogan on there, and they were actually using it as a selling point to try to compete with the WWE. I mean,
yeah, he was one of those cases. You bring in Hogan and Eric Bischoff, and they were the guys who were kind of running things in WCW, and you thought like they would kick off like a new Monday Night War, which that is kind of what caused the move to Monday, and the fact that didn't work, that like killed it very quickly. But they did all sorts of like WWE themed things that were so weird, and WCW things. A lot of these guys who went to TNA had big names in WCW. You had like the outsiders like Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, the other guys who were in like the NWO. Like a lot of them, like TNA was taking any WWE. I don't want to say reject. Some of them were really good, but the fact that they could just come in and be at the top of the card and seemingly not have to earn it, that could have been frustrating to the lower card, which a lot of those guys were killing it.
They were rejects, let's be honest.
Some of them were like Kurt Angle was not a WWE reject. He was one of those cases like he could still put on an amazing match today, and he was putting on amazing matches back then. There are some interesting ones. We have guys like I don't know if you Damian Sandow, who was really good in WWE. He had a really good comedy act, but he kind of just came in and won one of their titles kind of like out of nowhere. They had this habit. People would leave WWE, they would go to TNA, and they would cut a promo that's like, hey, I'm free from the WWE shackles. This is me. And they might get pushed to the top, but usually that was their character. Their character is that they are the disgruntled former WWE guy. And that's not very interesting. And too many of them did that.
Well, yeah, because they're trying to rebrand themselves, or I don't know, maybe trying to stick it to WWE.
Yeah. It just, the thing is, when they did that, it kind of felt desperate. It felt like they were kind of leeching off WWE rather than like what WCW did. They were doing like playful shots against something that they were legitimately competing against and beating for most of the Monday Night War. It wasn't quite the same with WCW. I mean, with TNA. They never stood a chance. They were just kind of leeching off internet fans when they're like, when they reference the WWE, sometimes they'll reference like the WWE guys by like their real names. I remember there was a promo, some guys like use Triple H and Shawn Michaels' real name, and it's like, oh, he said it, and that's supposed to get the internet wrestling fans going crazy, but they relied on that a little bit too much sometimes. And when I make fun of them for that stuff, like, it's because they had really good stuff, but then they would do stuff like that, which makes them look desperate.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. But that's probably because they were desperate. So I mean, if this,
I don't know. At a time, they were very popular. They were on what was it? Spike. It wasn't the biggest channel in the world, but they had a decent audience on Spike. But then they ended up losing that TV deal, and it's never been the same.
So wait, what are they on now?
I'm not even sure. When I do tune it, I think they do their shows on Twitch, and they're on some channel that nobody has. But I think they do a lot of their shows on Twitch. If you do want to watch it, that's an option.
That's not. That doesn't sound very good, by the way.
I don't mind the idea of them being on Twitch and having a good internet presence, but the TV channel they're on, the fact that I can't remember it just shows that it's probably not that good.
Yeah, like, do you think TNA is gonna crumble?
No, they're gonna last for a while. They just partnered with AEW. I don't know if you have seen what AEW's been doing, but they're
I have heard.
Well, that's like Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, and all those guys. They started a wrestling company. It's actually really good. They have like the best wrestling in the world, like every single week, and they've pretty much opened the door to working with other wrestling companies. And so they have like crazy crossover with TNA and New Japan, and they have like guys jumping back and forth, and it's giving TNA a pretty big buzz. So right now they're doing all right.
All right.
The problem with WWE is they pretend wrestling doesn't exist outside of them. What AEW is doing, they're getting buzz from having TNA guys on, and then people are now finally tuning into TNA again. I keep calling it TNA. They don't even call it TNA anymore. They rebranded to Impact. They got rid of the TNA thing a while ago.
Yeah, but people still gonna refer to them as such.
Mostly people who are making fun of them. Because
Like
they
they,
wanted to be more serious and be Impact, because TNA, it's a sex thing.
yeah. Like, what network do you think would be best for them to be on? Do you think they should be on back on Spike?
I don't know how Spike is doing these days. The only reason I ever tuned in was for TNA, so I don't know if that would be better for them or not. I think them building an internet audience is pretty good, because the internet wrestling fan base is kind of what they should be catering to. They're not going for like casual wrestling fans. WWE has that kind of locked down. I think what they're doing is pretty good. I don't know what network they could even get on. I guess they have like Access, which has I don't know. Maybe they are on Access. I think they were on Access for a minute. That has like New Japan Pro Wrestling and that stuff on there. That's where like some of the hardcore wrestling fans will go to watch wrestling, and that's like the audience they should cater to. So if they're not on Access, they should work on trying to get back on it. I'll have to look that up. What channel is TNA on?
Let's see if I can try to guess before you find it.
Or
Let's say TNT. I'm gonna say TNT.
all right. Oh, they are on Access. Okay, so yeah,
Oh,
that is where they should be. TNT is what AEW is on. It would be awesome if Impact was on TNT, because that would be a huge audience for them. But I would like it if AEW could buy them out and make them like their second show of the week or something. I think that would be really cool.
Like, they might as well if they're working together like this. And I think they. Yeah. Plus, I think there would be a huge benefit from doing that.
Yeah, I think the guy in charge of AEW is very smart, and it's weird because he had no experience in pro wrestling prior to starting it, but like he seems to be like a genuine fan, and he seems to like this crossover stuff. Vince McMahon's a bit of a control freak, and that kind of stops him from doing fun things. Yeah. That's why you'll never see WWE have a crossover unless WWE buys what they're crossing over with.
I hate that though.
Yeah. I think they bought something called I think they bought Progress. No, it's not Progress. What is it? Evolve. That was a wrestling company that I really liked. They either bought it or they're partnering with them in some capacity. But
basically means they're gonna buy them out.
I think they are. It's a really good wrestling company, and a lot of the guys that I've watched locally and I got to film, a lot of them got scooped up in the process. Like a lot of them were wrestling at Evolve.
Yeah. Basically, if they haven't bought them out yet, they will.
Yeah, I haven't been following that closely because I don't really watch WWE that much anymore. Like I mostly, like if I do tune in, I'm tuning in probably to AEW, but I like to watch the more local stuff. It's kind of fun seeing the young guys come up. I was a huge fan of the National Wrestling Alliance. They came back recently, and they were doing shows on YouTube, and they were actually doing really well on there. But they haven't done nearly as much since COVID hit.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, because they were doing good stuff. They were doing like really old school wrestling, and that's kind of an a kind of wrestling that doesn't really get a lot of attention anymore, like the old Southern style.
Can you define what that is?
Right now, wrestling is a lot of like acrobatic stuff, like a lot of flippy dippy stuff, a lot of like that technical wrestling stuff, and NWA has some technical stuff, but it's very hard hitting, I guess, and I guess they try to make it look a little bit more real. Like a lot of the other wrestling, they kind of get that the fans are in on it, so it gives them a lot more room to do things that are a little bit more absurd. That Southern style of wrestling is much more real. It's like when they were actually afraid that people were going to find out that wrestling was fake. I think you'd have to watch some NWA for that. Those guys are they do some great work, and they're owned by the guy who the lead singer from Smashing Pumpkins. Huge
Really?
wrestling fan. He bought them. Like he wanted to buy TNA like a while ago.
WWE?
Say what?
What the W? I was saying the WWE.
Oh, he I'm sure he would have loved that. But he wanted to buy TNA. Like he had a big investment in that, but something went south about that, and then he's like, "Okay, that's fine. I'll buy NWA, which is a property that was pretty much worthless at the time. I could have bought it." And now he's built it back to be a kind of its own brand, and they're working with AEW as well. Their champion shows up on AEW all the time. Now, even though they don't have well, their women's champion shows up on AEW all the time because AEW's women's division is struggling. So they brought in a bunch of talent, and they do some really cool stuff on there. Even though they're not putting on shows, they have their people doing some cool stuff.
So you're saying they're struggling? Like how so exactly? What's wrong?
I mean, they're not putting on shows right now. That's kind of the issue. They put on a couple since the pandemic. They like started a new like studio show with nobody in the audience, and they tried to make that work, but they haven't put out anymore. And just recently, I think they removed all their videos from YouTube and then like teased some sort of announcement. I'm not sure what's happening with that. They might have a television deal, but I don't know.
Well, yeah. Well, hopefully they put out something because
Yeah.
to fade into the darkness.
Yeah, because it's a shame because I didn't catch up to the show. I was watching it back from the beginning, but I believe they will be returning. They probably just have like a new deal where instead of putting their stuff on YouTube, they're going to put it somewhere else, and they're going to get a little money for that. It's probably like Fight TV or something. But they're I don't think they're going to actually be on television. I think they were on like local television in like Georgia where they filmed, but everything else was on YouTube.
Do you think that's a good thing though, or
they were doing
run?
pretty well? So I kind of wish they would stay on YouTube. It would be more convenient for me. But if they're moving to Fight TV, which is just like an app where they do a lot of what they do on there is like independent wrestling and MMA pay-per-views and stuff. So if they end up putting their shows on there, I think that would be great for Fight TV. I don't know if the NWA is going to get nearly as many views over there, though. That's kind of the thing. While I don't know if they were making much money off of YouTube, they were getting a decent amount of views.
Well, like how are they promoting this stuff well, or like?
Yeah, I think they've done very well because like I said, when Billy Corgan bought the NWA, it was a dead brand. The NWA title didn't mean anything, and now it's like this cool alternative brand that like real fans who like appreciate the rich history of professional wrestling can go to. Because like AEW and WWE, they're like these big hybrid organizations where they do like all the wrestling styles mixed into one, and it's kind of a mess. It can be really cool, but it is kind of a mess. NWA, it caters to a specific style, and I kind of appreciate that.
Yeah. Well,
Like everybody's wrestling the same style, which makes it like so much smoother of a show.
yeah, but what about like variety? Do you think that's necessary?
I mean, to be like a mainstream wrestling company, yes. But they're not necessarily going for being mainstream. They're trying to appeal to a very specific kind of wrestling fan, which I think is good. It's like having a niche market is kind of cool because you'll have a very dedicated audience, even if it won't be as big. Because appealing to casual fans, they could be gone tomorrow. The hardcore fans will be there for you, so they have that going for them.
That is true.
And like nobody else is doing wrestling like they were doing. That's another thing. Like you could go to WWE and you can see a lot of different styles. You can go to AEW and see a lot of different styles, but like with better writing. You can go to Impact, a lot of different styles. But like with this, you're getting something very specific. If you like that kind of wrestling, it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's like if you're a fan of Lucha Libre, you watch AAA in Mexico. Like if you like if you like tight technical holds and hard hitting, pretty strong but kind of fat guys, NWA is the way to go. Like you'll see these tough looking bastards beating each other up in NWA. That's kind of like the thing they got going for them. It's not the prettiest kind of wrestling.
It's the Royce.
Yeah, I guess kind of. Like it's ironic that Monday Night Raw is called that because it's so it's such a clean show. It doesn't feel very raw anymore. I think NWA is pretty raw.
Yeah, like WWE, they've abandoned that a long time ago, and I have to say that.
Yeah, they like I remember like I grew up watching the Ruthless Aggression era, which was it had some things in common with today, some things in common with the Attitude Era. I think it was a weird time in professional wrestling, but I got to see it transition from that to what it is now. It's not like I hate it because I think they have one of the most talented rosters they've ever had. They just creatively don't have a whole lot to work with. I think they have the materials to work with. They just need to be able to write a good story, which sometimes they can. Most of the time, not as much.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I've heard some people say that they loved like the Ruthless Aggression era. I don't know why.
It had John Cena at his coolest. That was cool. It had Randy Orton at his coolest. It had like Batista, Triple H at his power hungriest, I guess. That was a weird thing. It had Shawn Michaels at his best. So I get why people like it, but if you think about like the undercard, it's one of those times where the undercard was really bad. You had a lot of big guys who couldn't really wrestle. You had a lot of like weird gimmicks, a lot of weird racist gimmicks kind of stuck in between. It was weird.
Jimmy Wang.
Jimmy Wang Yang was not a racist gimmick. That was actually a subversion of expectations. They decided not to stick him with the stereotypical Asian gimmick. They let him be a cowboy. I think that was the exception to the rule. But they had guys like they had the
you just I just thought to throw that out there. I don't know.
Yeah. They had the Mexicools, who were a bunch of Mexicans who came out on lawnmowers. I don't know if you remember them.
I don't.
Oh, that was bad.
Wait, what? Say that again.
They were 3 Mexicans who came out riding lawnmowers.
Mexico.
And it's a shame because they were 3 of my favorite Mexican wrestlers. They put them in overalls and had them riding lawnmowers to the ring.
That sounds hilarious, to be honest.
In hindsight, it kind of is. Like, how did they let that happen?
I don't even know what to say to that.
Yeah.
That's very cartoonish. Like, what else did they have?
They had Muhammad Hassan, who's this Italian guy. They had B, I guess, an Iraqi, I guess, and they literally had him like come in and do like terroristic actions. It was weird. Like at first, he starts off like a bunch of people in America started treating me worse after 9/11. Like not all of us people from the Middle East are the same. And like that's an admirable gimmick. That's like a good guy gimmick. But then they have him come in with a bunch of people with ski masks and like simulate like a terrorist hostage video, and shortly after they had to write him off TV because they aired it like after like an actual terrorist attack, which is like so stupid. And yeah, they had Undertaker like kill off his character basically.
It's not the first time I've seen them do some stupid things only to kind of immediately regret it, and they had to backpedal.
Yeah.
I think this was like I think around the time the whole Chris Benoit situation happened. I think McMahon had pretended to die, and then he immediately had to retract that because I think
Yeah.
it was like the week after he did that. It might be like a whole week. Then that situation unfolded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that a lot of people consider like the Chris Benoit thing kind of like the nail in the coffin of the ruthless aggression era, where they like started to clean things up a little bit. Like a little while after that, they banned chair shots to the head, which is a good idea. Chair shots to the head are dangerous. Concussions are nothing to mess with.
Yeah.
So they did some good things about that, but they also generally cleaned up their image a lot. Like they got rid of blood, and blood wasn't even that much of a problem. That was just for toy companies or something and sponsorships and stuff. Oh, here's one more racist gimmick. You know Chavo Guerrero?
Yes.
He's the nephew of Eddie Guerrero. So shortly before Eddie died, they changed his gimmick back to Chavo Guerrero after Eddie died because you can't keep him as this. They had him be Kerwin White. So they had this Mexican dude pretending to be a white guy, and he had like a golf cart, and his I believe his catchphrase was like, "If it ain't white, it ain't right." And this is remember this is a Mexican guy saying this stuff. Like he's pretending that he's a white guy. I got more of these, man. There's plenty of them.
Keep going. I'm actually quite enjoying this rabbit hole of nonsense.
You might remember these guys. Crime Time?
Nope.
Oh, really? Okay. Honestly, it's a shame because Crime Time, both the members were very charismatic and I really like them. But they're like these two black guys who come in and they just kind of steal stuff. They come in and they steal things. And they sell they'll come in and they'll steal somebody's hat or something and sell it to somebody in the audience, and like it's just these two young black men who are just flat out criminals, and it's terrible. And it's weird because people freaking loved them. That's the unfortunate thing. Things like that could be popular back then.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
I'm not even sure if I'm even surprised by this. It's just like you'd be surprised what you was able to get away with even like 10 years ago, or even like 2 years ago.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of another one. Most things that JBL did.
Yeah, what did he do?
And like he would, like, when he's feuding with Rey Mysterio or Eddie Guerrero, there were a lot of Mexican jokes. Most of that's not really that funny, but JBL, he when he was like on top and he was a bad guy, he leaned into a lot of the racial stuff, not towards like black people, but more towards like Mexican people, because those just happened to be the guys he was wrestling. He beat Eddie Guerrero for the WWE title. He ends up wrestling with Rey Mysterio a lot. Here's a good one. Remember Funaki?
I'm not really sure.
He was around during the Attitude Era, I think. But they decided to just lean into the fact that he was Asian and change his name to Kung Fu Naki. And he was just a karate guy. It's really bad.
This is all in the Ruthless Aggression era.
Yeah.
All right, continue.
There were a lot. I could go back further if oh yeah, JBL. I remember here's one funny thing that JBL did that was awful. He like drove down to the border to like hunt illegal immigrants at the border.
Oh.
He did like a border patrol vignette.
Yo, that's
It was
crazy.
so bad. And the Ruthless Aggression era is where Vince McMahon has like the infamous moment where like he says the N-word.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you've seen that clip, and he goes by John Cena, and then he says it, and then it pans over, and Booker T is right there, and he's like, "Hey, tell me you didn't just say that."
It's a meme at this point.
Yeah, you'd have to have seen that one.
Yes, I've seen it. It's as cringy. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Have you ever played Final Fantasy X?
I played a little bit of it. I didn't get very far into it.
All right, there's a scene on there of the main character doing like a fake laugh.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I know that one.
It's as cringy as that.
Yeah, it's just like that.
It's
I never got to that part in the game, so I didn't know it was a fake laugh. I didn't really get it, but that's funny. I didn't get very far at all. I think that's pretty early, isn't it?
it's
Like, just shows how little I've played.
yeah, it's still like in the beginning stages of the game.
Hmm.
It's pretty much when like all like 6 of the 7 main characters form. So, because there's like a big gap between like the 6th recruitment and the 7th one. But
Yeah.
okay, you know the first 2 characters that you kind of travel around with before you get to the island, because you get to like 3 different. Yeah, those 2 actually wind up being like the last people that actually join your party proper.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because 10 had this weird.
I didn't have the patience for that game.
Yeah, no, it's a slow burn because I'm actually watching someone play through the game now. It is slow. I'll be honest with you, because it takes. I've heard people were talking about this in the chat as well. So we've been discussing this game because the game. Wait, hold on. Right. Yeah,
And he's returned.
Yeah, and that fell. Yeah. But yeah, what was I going to say? Yeah, so the game is kind of slow. And that was actually one of the complaints. So, like it's one of the criticisms people are talking about in the game in that chat. Because you go through like a few maps before you actually get to like, I guess the beginning.
Yeah.
It's weird. It basically has it has this long introduction section. So if your patience isn't high, I can see why you probably dropped off early.
Yeah. Like, it's weird. Like, I'm not a huge Final Fantasy guy. I played Final Fantasy 15 and I enjoyed it more. I feel like I got into the action better. Also, that one played completely different. So I guess you'd have to be into a different play style.
Yeah, 10 is turn based, so
Yeah. And I like turn-based stuff. Paper Mario is one of my favorite games.
yeah,
uh,
yeah, but
but yeah.
yeah, but Paper Mario's a little different though. Like Final Fantasy's, well, I don't want to say this stuff is like basic, but sometimes it can be.
Hmm.
Well, 10 is turn based. It's a mixed bag. Like the actual combat itself is pretty good. It's pretty fast paced, but the leveling up system is a little tedious. So,
Yeah.
but like I said, it takes a while before things get going. Like I don't know, the way they started the game was a little weird.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, like that. The laughing thing, I definitely, I would say is pretty much comparable to the the McMahon thing. Although I'd probably say the McMahon thing is even more cringy because it's supposed to be funny and it's just like no.
Yeah, like it's one of those things like you can believe his character saying that, but like we didn't really need that. We didn't really need confirmation that that's what he was like. We kind of got what he was like.
Yeah, like the other stuff you was mentioning up until this point was I thought was pretty funny.
Hmm.
I mean it's still offensive, but it's kind of funny.
Like
Like the,
it's funny that they got that far and these things got to TV. Like I think the worst thing, I think this might have been considered like the end of the Attitude Era or like the beginning of I'm not sure exactly where people even draw the lines, but there was a rivalry between Booker T and Triple H for the world title, and it was supposed to go it went to WrestleMania and stuff. And
yeah,
Triple H kind of leans into the fact that Booker T, he had like a criminal past, he was arrested and stuff. And he has this famous moment where he's like, people like you don't get to be world champion. And you
oh,
kind of get what that means. They denied uh, the implications there, but at the same time, he's leaning into like racial stereotypes and being like, oh, you're a criminal or whatever. And honestly, I would have been fine with that if Booker T won,
but
but
you
they
know,
went to WrestleMania and Triple H hits his finisher and then he takes like 30 seconds to cover him. Usually if you're going to win, you hit your finisher, you cover him immediately. He hits the finisher, he takes like 30 seconds to cover him. That usually means, "Oh, it's been too long. The guy's going to kick out. Like the finisher didn't stick." No, after that like 30-second wait, he still beats Booker T, like totally like burying him.
you got you got
So like
you got
so
laugh.
people like you don't get to be world champion, and it turns out he was right. He doesn't get to be world champion.
Oh my god, it's just like the Neji Neji was right.
Oh god. Yeah, like
Yeah,
you ever see people just take the wrong moral in a story? That's what happened there.
yeah.
Like that was a perfect place for Booker T to be world champion, but then they're like, nope. And then after that, forever after that, WWE was like accused constantly of not liking having black people as champion. Like they had The Rock, but after him, it took a very long time. Like currently, they have a black champion. They got Bobby Lashley as their champion, but like it's surprising that he's champion
Wait,
because black people don't typically get to be world champion in WWE. It's weird.
when did he go back on WWE?
Oh, he's been back for years now, but he was with Impact for a while. He was their world champion, but he went back like a couple of years ago. I think maybe 3 or 4 now. I don't know. It's been a while. Uh, they kind of screwed him over a whole bunch, gave him like terrible creative, and he's just gotten better, and he became world champion. It's great.
Well, it's about time. He was always just kind of like a. It seemed like he was a guy I was trying to be as like the main card, but they always kind of just shot him down to like mid. Which,
Yeah. I don't know if you remember MVP.
yes.
MVP, he returned to WWE and he put together this faction of black wrestlers, and they kind of lean into that. Uh, and it's in kind of a tasteful way. It's not as bad as like those old gimmicks. And now everybody in that faction, like this 4-person faction, they all have titles now. So MVP got like he's an amazing manager. Like he doesn't really wrestle that much anymore. I think he's injured now, but like if he could wrestle, he'd probably have like the United States title or something. Bobby Lashley has the world title. They have Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander, who's like a newer guy you wouldn't be familiar with. They have the tag titles, which is awesome.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. It is very good to hear. Bobby Lashley, they screwed him up a lot because he goes away, he becomes champion in Impact and stuff. He starts like doing MMA and stuff, and he has like a very good record. He should have been like Brock Lesnar, and then they brought him back, and it was weird. He just kind of languished in the mid card for a very long time.
Yeah, I just don't think they never really knew what to do with him.
Yeah, I think once he added MVP, I think that was the big thing. Bobby Lashley, he has kind of a soft voice. You know, a lot of those big tough guys, they have like softer voices than you would expect. Like Brock Lesnar has the same thing. That's why he has Paul Heyman who talks for him. I think having MVP helped.
Yeah, I guess
because MVP is a great talker.
Yeah, that was the other thing. He didn't really talk as much. I mean, he talked more than Brock Lesnar, but yeah.
Yeah. Like they really wanted Bobby Lashley to be the top guy at a point, like in his first run. They even put him with Donald Trump in that match where it was Donald Trump and Vince McMahon fighting over whose head would be shaved.
Yeah, that aged well.
There were so many good like gifts that got out of that though. So like that's something. Like once he got bigger into politics, there was plenty of little gifts to go with every single moment. He even took a stunner at the end of that match. It's kind of crazy.
I was like, speaking of like, I guess memes involving like Jerome, but I'm not sure if you ever like indulged in like Final Fantasy VII, but like one of the major characters in that game, well, sort of major, I guess, kind of looks like Donald Trump. So when he was elected, they were playing like the Shinra theme. There's a video. Yeah, it's one of the evil organizations in that particular game.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, Shinra Electric Power Company. Anyway, so they played that theme. Well, he's giving his inauguration speech, and I was just on the floor. I was like, "Yo, this is like, where is this?"
Yeah. All right. So it's looking like it's my time. I'm probably gonna have to go. I'm glad we got past the hour mark, though. I was feeling like I wasn't gonna make it this long, but I've got to probably bail out.
All right, so yeah, I guess we can start wrapping this up. But like, I didn't really want to do this too long anyway because I'm a little tired. I got a lot of stuff to do. So
yeah, I think this one went well. I enjoyed our conversation. I think it only got better.
Yeah.
Next time we'll talk about One Piece. We were gonna, but the conversation just went somewhere else.
Yeah, but we'll get to that eventually. That's going to be one of the things we're going to be consistently talking about.
Hopefully I'll be able to finish Skypiea by then. Because Skypiea, I realized I forgot everything that happened in Skypiea. So I'm excited to see where it goes. It's kind of slow, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, do you want to, I guess when we do talk about One Piece, do you want to wait until after you finish Skypiea or
I'll probably have it finished by next week. So, you know, I think that should be fine.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the not so popular arcs. I mean it's starting to get a little more love over the years, but still it could be a
I think
drag.
the pacing was bad. I think it could have been fine if they did it a little faster.
Yeah, it was actually, I think it's actually like now it's probably like the 4th longest arc.
Yeah.
You know, prior to like Dressrosa and the arcs with Big Mom and Kaido.
Yeah, I'm very excited to start getting into that stuff in anime form because I never watched that stuff in anime form. I only read the manga for like the later stuff.
Dressrosa is awful in the anime.
Oh, really? I'd expect it to be better in the anime than the manga. I don't know.
No,
I was.
it was actually worse because the anime caught up to the manga at that point. Remember, the manga was 100
Oh
chapters,
yeah.
so they actually wind up stretching. It might even be almost twice as long. So, like, it's like, for example, like when Luffy
Hmm.
goes like Gear Fourth, that stuff is good,
Yeah.
but that stuff is animated pretty well and all that. But all the other stuff though, it's kind of a mess. Now the anime after Dressrosa is actually pretty good because the pacing gets a lot faster. Well, also in the manga as well, the pacing is just a lot faster. There's a lot more things happening. It's better animated, and But I thought I'd let you know that right now. Not Wano. Dressrosa in the anime it might wind up being a slog to get through. So just keep that in mind.
We'll see. I've got plenty of time before I get there. I'm very like I'm watching this with my girlfriend, so I'm looking forward to uh like the Robin stuff, like Water 7 and like the stuff after that. Like I feel like that stuff's gonna be fun to watch again because it's been a while, and I remember I really enjoyed that stuff.
Yeah, like the Water 7 to Marine Forge stretch, that stuff is like really good. That's like the best
Yeah.
section of One Piece.
Ooh, the Marine Ford stuff. She's gonna cry.
Yeah, like that whole stretch of the story, that's easily like the best part of it in my opinion, at least so far.
Hmm.
Like even Thriller Bark is pretty decent. It's like one of the better like comedic arcs.
Yeah, Thriller Bark. That I remember that one being kind of fun. Like I don't think I cared about the villain, but I just thought it was like a really cool island.
Yeah,
It's
no,
one of
most
those
people
really cool
think
worlds.
it was kind of weak, but
Yeah.
that's also kind of the point of his character. He's a guy that got lazy after getting slapped
Mm.
around by titles. So yeah, so that was kind of I guess that was kind of the point. They do kind of make up for like the latter half of the arc with some of the stuff that happens there. But yeah, but like I said, that whole stretch is. I think you're gonna really enjoy it again. So
All right. Well, I guess we'll see where I am next week. Hopefully, I'll be at the end of the
Skype.
Skype. Yeah, that thing I'm on. I'm skipping the filler, so hopefully that'll help me get through it a little faster. Not Skypea. There's no more filler left at the point I'm in.
Oh,
But like I'm skipping the most of the filler. I got a filler list, so that'll help me get through the series.
yeah.
I might
Well,
watch the next one, the one that comes after Skypea. I believe people tend to like the filler arc that comes right after that.
yeah, the G8 arc. Yeah, that
That
one's
one's
based.
kind of popular.
Yeah, because that one's focused more like in that kind of gets into like the marine stuff, and I do believe there is actually one canon thing that happens because I'm not sure if you remember like One Piece had like the cover stories
Hmm.
like at the
Oh
beginning.
yeah, I remember those.
So I think they adapt like the Ace cover story.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think I'll watch that. It's like 15 episodes. That's not bad for an arc.
yeah, it's better than Long Way Long, that's for sure. That's the next canon arc after Skypiea.
Oof.
Although, yeah, it's fun. It's such a weird arc. I think they stretch it out in the anime though, because I'm thinking the manga is like only maybe like 5 or 10 chapters. Where in the
Hmm.
anime, they stretch it out a bit. It does. Yeah, because it's like filler stuff they throw in between, and I think they actually stretched it into like 2 arcs for some reason.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. I'm gonna actually have to go. Like I've reached my actual limit. I've pushed our outro a little about as far as it can go.
All right. So you can tell people where they can find you and all that.
Okay, my channel is Social Stud with the one U, and I'm on Twitter. I'm at Brady Douglas, and I think that's it. I don't think I have anything else that I use. So those are there.
You need to
Um,
get Instagram.
I have Instagram. I just don't use it. I don't take pictures that much.
You don't have to
I don't
take
have
pictures.
much to take pictures of. I don't like looking at myself in pictures. So I don't know what else I would do.
You don't have to do that. I mean, like for example, like when I post stuff on stories, I just do text, so you can just do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll think about it. I have it. It's there if I want to use it.
Yeah. Oh, this the button. So there's his channel. Follow him on there.
Yeah. It's got no "the" in it though. But yeah. I am the social stud, but the channel is Social Stud.
Yes.
Short for social studies, because history buff was already taken.
I like this. I like social stuff better. So anyway.
Yeah, I appreciate that. The second I thought about it, I'm like, oh, I'm getting that. I'm making that channel. I didn't know I was gonna do anything with it. I'm just like, oh, I came up with that idea. We gotta keep that. Stud.
That's right. I'm gonna just start introducing you like this.
Okay, that's fine.
So,
I'm down with
so
that.
social stuff for coming. Rest in peace, headphone users. And well, I guess that's pretty much it. So thank you everyone for
Cool.
watching, listening, and tune in next time for another episode of the Always Late to Everything podcast. Have a good day, everyone. As Brady disappears from the light.